Yeah. Okay. Lil CC on the beat. Yeah, yeah. I mean, where the fuck should I really even start? I got hoes that I'm keeping in the dark. I got my niggas cross the street living large. Thinking back to the fact that they dead, thought my raps wasn't facts till they sat with the bars. I got 2 phones, one need a charge. Yeah, they twins, I could tell they ass apart. I got big packs coming on the way. I got big stacks coming out to save. I got Lil Max with me, he the wave. It's a big gap between us in the game. In the next life, I'm trying to stay paid. When I die, put my money in the grave. When I die, put my money in the grave. I really gotta put a couple niggas in their place. Really just lapped every nigga in a race.
All right, so welcome back to Blow Up the Team. Matt, that's your cue.
Shit, no. You gotta give me my verse here.
Your verse? Oh no, come on now.
I'm kidding.
Come on now. No, I faded that out a long time ago. Come on now.
Oh yeah, you faded that a while ago. I forgot how listening parties work on Spotify, so I'm sitting here listening to it. I'm like, why are you talking over the music? I'm like, what are you like? Okay, wasn't this where we were supposed to stop and start going?
Yeah, no, I faded it out. Come on now.
No. In honor of the song that I unfortunately trashed at one point.
Yes. Are we going to discuss that?
No, we're not. It was a wrong choice. The song slaps. I'm sorry. I hate Drake. It's not like no, it's not news. I hate Drake. I hate most of his music. I think he's a whiny little bitch who pretends to be hard when he's not. But this song was a great song. Anyway. We're never getting Drake on this show, I guess.
Oh yeah, we're just gonna bring him on the podcast. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I just ruined that for us. Speaking of Drake,
I told you that song. I told you that song goes hard, bro, and then you were like, nah.
Was in the 6 a few weeks ago. How long has it been since we recorded? Was it before I went to Toronto?
No, it was right when you came back from Toronto. I think we recorded on the Monday, and then I drove on a Wednesday. So actually, it could have been just about a week, actually.
No. No, it's been 2 weeks.
Hold on. Let's I'll check.
No, you said I can see when you sent me the video.
Huh. No, it says 1 week ago.
It says 1 week, but it's been 14 days.
My fault. Hey, you know what? I had move-in. I had a lot of training. All right. I'm sorry.
Oh no, no. And then we got my moving. Yeah, this isn't the last episode for a while. We're both gonna. Well, I'm gonna be in New Jersey. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not even in New Jersey. I'm in South Carolina. We out here, gang.
So yeah, we did record after I got back from the 6, as Drake likes to call it.
And you were trashing a song. So I went to the Yankee game, and I was just sitting there minding my own business with some drunk idiots in front of me. Which I mean, I may tell that story at some point. I don't know, but
it's a sporting event with drunk people. So,
no, these were extra. This is an extra drunk person. There was almost a fight. It was great. But I was sitting there, and Aaron Judge's walk-in song came out. I'm like, ooh, this goes hard. And then I remembered, like, oh yeah, like Drake dropped this after the Raptors one, and I said to Matt that night, I'm like, yo, that song goes in, bro. And he's like, nah, I don't really like it.
I didn't realize that was the song you're talking about. I just heard you just kept saying something like "money in the grave," and I'm like, well, that's a dumb place to put your money. Like making some stupid joke. And then, oh, you know what was that song that came out after the Raptors one that Drake put out? That was actually like one of the few Drake songs I like. It's like every once in a while he comes through something like. I mean, as much of a meme Astroworld was, he wasn't terrible on that.
Astroworld just turned into a meme because everybody fell in love with it for like a few weeks and then
Way
got
too
overplayed.
long.
And then got overplayed, yeah. Which is what happens to all great songs, honestly.
It was great because my roommate was a huge Travis Scott fan, so all I listened to for like whenever he came in was fucking Travis Scott. I think I listened to Astroworld front to back a few times. Like, man, some mix-ins from Rodeo and oh my god, I can't think of his other album. Whatever, not important. Yeah, you go to a nice Yankee game, got to watch the Yankees finish the sweep of the Sox. I go to a game, but it's the one I get blown in 1905 versus
All
the
right, hold on.
Indians.
Let me just apologize in advance right now. The internet in this building subpar at best. So if he like cuts out for a second, I will have him repeat it. I just apologize. I can't do anything about the internet.
Yeah, your school has shit internet. Mine is great
Well, I mean,
internet.
I have wired internet, and honestly, this is the first time I've really had an issue with it since I got the wired internet set up. But this is the second time since I started recording about 5 minutes ago that your microphone is just completely cut out.
Oh, that's great. Good shit. Well, anyway, moving right along. I was like thinking, like we got there ridiculously early. Like like it was the game started at Thursday, Indians, and I always get nervous going to Yankee games after they've been on a winning streak because I'm like, great, this guy, I'm always going to be the one who. I've gotten pretty good luck the past couple of years. I went to a huge Yankees blowout where they blew out the Red Sox. Got to watch Aaron Hicks have his 3-homer game last year, and a lot of fun stuff happening then. And then I went to the one game at the U. It was a close, tough loss to the Braves, but it was a close game. It was fun. It was still fun. However, that game wasn't fun. Like, I've never been to a baseball game and thought I didn't have fun. I genuinely was struggling to find like a will to stay, and it was like it was so cool because like me and my dad used to go all the time, just me and him, and it was like the first time me and him just went to a game together in like a long ass time since I was like still a kid, and so I was like, we got there, we left at 4, which. Because we figured we get there by like 6 something. We give ourselves enough time to eat, find something to eat, go to the team store and all that. And we ended up getting there at like 5:15, which is absurd. All the traffic was before the GWB. There was no traffic on the George Washington. There was no traffic coming in. I thought, oh, it's perfect. It's a gorgeous day for baseball. I'm there thinking, I mentioned to my dad, I've never seen a Grand Slam before. I really want to see one of those. Cause like I've been to so many Yankee games. I've seen a lot of shit. I've never seen a Grand Slam. Thought that'd be kind of cool. And then the game started, and leadoff single from Francisco and from Lindor. Lindor's a great hitter. Fine. Greg Allen gets a base hit. Okay, a little bit concerning. But we're not going to worry about it. Can't put away whoever came up after him. I think it was Puig. And then he strikes out Carlos Santana. And I'm like, oh, okay, maybe we get out of this. I struck out the next guy, and I thought, okay, now we just need a double play ball. Or we get a fielder's choice. Or we can maybe get out of this with no runs, or at worst, just 1 run. That'll be okay. And because it's Jose Ramirez, though he's been hot of late, he's had an up and down year. He's been mostly having big struggles. Comes up there, fights off a couple it didn't even sound like a home run off the bat. And then you realized, wait, that's traveling over the bullpen wall. And it was really depressing. Because like every ball I thought was a fly ball for the Indians just went out of the park, and every ball that I thought was a home run for the Yankees just stayed in the park. It's like MLB The Show. Anyone who plays MLB The Show, it's like you get good timing, square it up, and you fly out to the warning track. Really, really depressing feeling. And got to look at the positives. Didi had a good game. Didi's my favorite player. Got to watch him hit a home run, couple base hits, some good defense. Got to watch another Gio Urshela, Gold Glove caliber plays. Talkman had a couple of good plays. It was a rough experience. Left in the 7th.
Oh, you're not a true fan. Never leave a game early, no matter how bad they're losing.
Listen, bitch, I don't even want to hear you talk. And we were leaving in the 7th, and we went back because I heard Mike Ford was pitching. Oh my god, I thought they're gonna wait till the 9th. That's why we watched Mike Ford pitch. It was fun. We watched in the concourse on the first level. So, got to look at the positives. Got to watch Mike. And Mike Ford struck out a guy. That was great. The weirdest part of the game was we were sitting right down on the end of the row, and down the row was like a group of like 5 Indians fans, which is weird enough. But I didn't think there's gonna be that many. But New York has like people from all over, so of course people, the Indian fans are there. But like, this group of five just kept looking. Like this one guy in the group just kept looking over at me after every single time the Indians scored. I'm like, am I supposed to be like his gauge for reactions? Oh, that was the other thing. I've heard no doubt home runs. I've seen no doubt home runs. I've never heard a home run so loud that I thought that I actually made me say, "Oh damn," because Carlos Santana hit an absolute moonshot off Loizaga, off Johnny Lasagna, I think John Boy calls him, and just that was a it was a fiesta. Anyway, moving on. Yankees ultimately split that series with Cleveland. CC had a rough outing. We can talk about that later. It was a 19-game stretch, though they play. It was like Baltimore, Toronto, back home playing Baltimore, and then Cleveland. Still, 19 games in a row is a hard thing for any team. It gets exhausting. The Cubs last year were consistently good, and then in the last month of the season, they had to play 27 straight games, and then like towards the end in games where they were, should have won, their offense just was tired. They couldn't do it. And I say they played bad teams. That includes Boston. Boston's a bad team. Outside Rafael Devers, it's just blah. They're 67-59, which is not a bad record. But, and terrible news for the Red Sox today. Sale's done for 2019. He's got elbow inflammation in what's been a mostly frustrating season for him. He's been struggling despite striking a ridiculous amount of batters, he's, he's beginning to hit around when he doesn't strike people out. And so it's been that's like kind of, as the ESPN article says, Red Sox are basically toast. Like their rotation had enough issues. Their big acquisition in Andrew Kashner, it hasn't panned out. He's had 3 rough starts. I think he had 1 win with them, which was the win where the Yankees were in Fenway. But like past that, they moved into the bullpen. They moved Evaldi out of the bullpen and into the rotation, and now they probably have to force Kashner back into the rotation. And so it's going to be interesting. The Red Sox still score a lot of runs, but like, you think the Yankees have pitching problems? The Red Sox pitching problems make the Yankees pitching problems look non-existent. Now, back to the Yankees pitching problems. The bullpen is ridiculously good. Starting pitching, it's been the story for the entire season. The Yankees have, as of today, the best record in baseball. They are 1 win better than the Dodgers and 3 wins better than the Astros. They have the best record because their offense has been clutch. Their offense has been consistent. If the starting pitching can be more consistent, they have a real shot at making a deep run. The problem is that J-Hap can't pitch the way he's been pitching this whole season. The problem is CC Sabathia can't pitch like he just did. CC Sabathia is a 5.01 ERA. It's unacceptable for a team that's trying to get to an ERA. J-Hap and CC both have ERAs above 5, which is unacceptable for a rotation of a team this caliber. James Paxton has been looking better of late, though he did get tagged for 4 runs in the Indians loss. There's almost all of his runs he's given up have been in the first inning. After the first inning, he's been pretty damn good, which is like such a strange problem because he's got 113 innings pitched and 141 strikeouts. His ERA is a 4.5, but his ERA in the first inning is over 10. So James Paxton, if he can become the man that Seattle had last season, and what we saw when he dominated the Red Sox, that one start early in the season, and when the hot start he got off to, that's a solid starter. the only pitcher who's pitched with like real consistency is Tanaka and Herman. Tanaka's ERA is unsightly, but Tanaka's ERA is unsightly because he's given up 18 runs against the Red Sox in 3 1/3 innings in his last 2 starts against the Red Sox. You take away those, and he's been great. So Tanaka and Herman, like a lot of people have been questioning, like specifically Boone has faced a lot of questions. What are you gonna do with Herman? Are you gonna put him in the postseason? The fact is, they don't have a choice, and that's not a bad thing because Herman, despite his ERA being a 3.9, is still that's good for this. Like today, pitching has not been as not saying pitching can't be dominant. You have people like Adam Ottavino doing better than he did last year in his career season. People were calling it. Aroldis Chapman's still pitching strong. Zach Britton's still pitching strong. Some starters like Justin Verlander and Garrett Cole and Charlie Morton are all pitching strong. But, it feels like pitching has not been the strongest suit of most teams. And going to be the biggest question for the Yankees this postseason. Speaking of pitching, the injuries in the pitching, Dellin Betances, he was going to be a big addition to the bullpen. We can get people like Sessa or, Loaizica out because the fact is, Sessa's been having an up and down season. A lot of people just pay attention to the bad stuff. The fact is, when it comes to baseball, you can't just focus on the bad. You have to look at the bigger picture. Sessa's been, when he's been good, has been lights out. This is all stuff that's going to come with time. We don't have time in this season to see him develop. And so Sessa's not really an option. So maybe you can get Sessa you regardless, you have a much more solid option. Yeah, David Hale coming back. David Hale, who has been quietly one of the better relievers, pitching to a sub-3 ERA, not just under 40 innings before he was sent down. Before he went down with back problems. He's coming back. But the biggest news is Luis Severino. Now, Severino, they're probably going to have to stretch him out for bullpen to start. Doesn't mean he can't make a couple starts at the end of the season and roll into the postseason as a starter. So these will be huge additions for the Yankees. The question then, becomes what do we do with CC and Happ? Because the fact is, Happ is not the Happ we got out of the trade deadline last year. Happ has struggled consistently to just locate his fastball. And that's what the Happ's always had to do. When he was good in his best years at Toronto, and I think the Phillies he came up with, it was because he locates his fastball and gets it in on righties, and he puts a lot of people away like that. He hasn't been able to find that success this year because he's leaving too much over the plate. He doesn't have the same control. So we're going to have to see what the Yankees end up deciding because, despite Sabathia and Happ being part of the rotation, the question is, can the Yankees do it? The Yankees are also looking at the option of having to do bullpen games, which isn't horrible for a team like the Yankees have such a good bullpen. But that also, there's a lot of questions that are slowly going to have to be answered. And and that's the only reason why the Dodgers consistently stay above the Yankees in these power rankings. Yankees have consistently been number 2 or 3 because of the pitching. If the pitching figures itself out, they have a month and 10 days or 11 days to figure out their pitching. So that'll be really interesting. Back on the offensive front, Aaron Judge, though he's been slumping, is starting to look like he's coming out of it a little bit. Not home runs, but hard doubles, hard liners, more contact. Slowly starting to look like himself again.
Not everything's about home runs.
No, I'm not saying that, but the guy like Aaron Judge, you need power. Like he's not there to just slap a single. We have our contact guys.
I mean, sometimes you just need a single, though.
Well, that's not what I'm saying, though. Yes, but that's not what I'm saying.
Dude, I'm just busting your chops. Relax. It's not that big a deal.
No, I'm not. I'm just saying, not what I mean. Brett Gardner's having a monster second half. Brett Gardner's been batting north of 300 with a bunch of doubles and some home runs too. since the All-Star break. And this has always been Brett Gardner's problem. He usually, and normally his big thing is the first half. The first half is always his strongest, and then his second half is always a struggle. But this year, it's been the exact opposite. He was good in the first half, then he's had some like up and down in the first half. Then he went in the IL, plus the All-Star break split, and he's been back and hitting like a madman.
It says in August, I'm sure you can't really read it, but August it says he's batting so far 316, 9 RBI, 7 walks, 2 home runs.
Yeah, and so he's been, very, very effective since coming back off the IL, and he's been a huge part of this team. Now, Brett Gardner had a career, I think, 3 or 4 ejections before the season started. He's now up to 7 or 8, I think. He's had a lot more ejections. He got thrown out for literally no reason in Toronto. Umpire didn't even look, just threw him out and then stuck with it because I'm the umpire, I'm God. And that was fun. And then he got thrown out again for hitting his bat against the roof. And the Yankees have been, as you know, many T-shirts this year. Savages in the box. Let Brett bang, I think, is a fantastic slogan, which the Yankees have been piling on. The Aaron Judge mimicking it after getting a couple base hits. Michael Kay's back in the booth.
So I like to see.
Not that it affects the Yankees, but he's been there for so many years. Nice having him back.
When we break records, we need Michael Kay. You know what I'm saying?
Oh yeah.
Michael Kay, I will always remember Michael Kay for that call that he had on Jeter's 3,000 hit. That's iconic to me.
And Michael Kay has been. I really like listening to Michael Kay. I'm biased, of course, because it's like one of the only announcers I've ever known. But I love listening to Michael Kay announce games. What was I gonna say? Back to the hitting. Stanton is starting baseball activities again. That if everyone on the Yankees comes back healthy, it brings a lot of questions. Because Mike Tauchman, the Yankees brought him up because in AAA, he's always had such good success, but he's never had long enough stints in the majors to really make any, pushes, make any real
Get any traction.
Yeah. And that was seen again this year. He had a couple moments in the beginning with his first career home run and some moments in the beginning, but he's mostly sitting in AAA. With his Stanton injury, he's showing the exact type of major league player he can be. He's hitting almost 300. I think he's hitting 295 right now with decent power numbers.
289.
With 289? Okay. And he's got good speed and great defense, and it's been a total turnaround. And it's like, what do you do? Because you have him, you have Cameron Maybin, who's also hitting like a monster. You have Aaron Hicks coming off the IL. Aaron Hicks, if he comes off healthy, I mean, that's another question, because Aaron Hicks has been on the IL, and he's also another important part of this team, because defensively, he's awesome. And, he's also, when he's hot, he's deadly, because he's switch hitting power hitter. And so you got a lot of big questions for what you do with all these players and where you fit them, because Voigt's coming back. Encarnacion, though he broke his wrist and everyone thought his year's probably done, within a couple of days, Susan Waldman was talking about it, his cast was off. He's looking stronger. He's able to have full range of motion, though he's still tender in a lot of areas. He's looking a lot better. The only people on the current 40 who are currently active that you can really make the obvious all right, you're not gonna be here for that you can send back down to AAA and not feel too bad about. Mike Ford, though I love him as a person, I think his story is great. He's hitting under 200. You don't really need that. And oh god, Tyler Wade, who's still struggling. Like he great defense, phenomenal defense, decent minor league numbers. Hasn't made the transition to majors in any of his stints. So I'll have to wait and see what goes on there. I'm just looking at your little thing here.
I mean, I don't know if Higashioka is still on the major league
No, he's
roster.
not.
Okay.
No, yeah, they sent him down after Sanchez got back. Sanchez, who came back and is looking a little bit like himself again, which is good because that was a problem before he went on the IL. He was starting to slump it bad because he's hitting 270s, 280s, and slumped all the way down to the 220s and then 230s. Kind of back up there. Austin Romine stepped in big time. You know, his offensive numbers are never going to scream like, wow. But he's good defensively. He's come in clutch multiple times.
He's batting almost 275, honestly.
No, yeah, yeah. And the fact is, he's a great. Yeah, that's his whole career has been. Like, he's been a great backup to every single catcher that's been the main catcher on the Yankees. And he's had a lot of good at bats and a lot of good like a great season for the Yankees. He's not going anywhere. Higashioka really doesn't have a real spot to move in, or that he's had the success that he needs to be able to make the case. But yeah, so the biggest question for the Yankees is going to be when everyone gets healthy, what do you do? Of course, it's a question of can Stanton get healthy and get back, because he's been here for 9 games and has done not much. And the question, of course, is Aaron Hicks. It's an elbow injury. How far can you really push him? Is Aaron Hicks going to be healthy in time for the postseason, and is he going to be able to stay healthy?
I mean,
'Cause it's hard to
postseason is still a
say.
few months, isn't it?
Just no, everything ends September 27th, I think. So, and especially the elbow injuries, you have to be careful because the problem is it's inflammation in his elbow. The problem is where it's inflamed is right next to his UCL, and so they have to be really careful. Though it's just soreness, if they're not careful with how they rehab it, he could tear his UCL, which would mean Tommy John, which would be disastrous for the Yankees because they just gave him a lot of money to stay with them for the next for next 7 years. So, the fact is, like, if let's say Stanton and Hicks come back tomorrow, how do you tell Maben or Tauchman, yeah, hit the road? The fact is, you can't because they've been so good. And so it leaves, these are big problems that the Yankees are going to have to answer over the next couple weeks. But these are good problems to have. It's not like, you had this veteran that's been so good for you for so many years. How do you let him go? How do we we have to, he's not doing well. We have to kind of look at letting him go. These are good problems to have. And so it'll be interesting the next couple weeks. Now to move to the other side of New York, the raucous little upstarts in Queens think, getting a little bit too big for their shoes. They had a massive run of, like, I think 7 and then 8 game winning streaks where they
And they've
played
won 3
out
or
of their...
4.
What?
I said they've won
Yeah.
3 of the last 4 as well.
Yeah,
I mean,
but they
realistically,
played
they
a
just had a
4-game
bad
series against...
They had a bad 3 games. It is what it is. I mean, they still won the National Series. They took one of the Braves series. They won the Royals series. I mean,
Well, yeah, but here's the thing. When they started getting hot, post All-Star game, they played Miami. Now, they did beat the Twins 2 games in 2 games. They took both games, which was big. So
they
they
also
lost
beat
3 or
the
4 in
Tar.
San Fran.
I mean, I know they weren't playing great teams, but they were. I mean, they beat the Nationals in back-to-back series now.
Yeah, we just because San Fran they lost to, and San Fran's not a good team. San Diego they beat. Then they play Pittsburgh, who has been awful since the All-Star break. Since the All-Star break, they're the double digits for loss and like single digits for wins. then they beat the White Sox in 3 games, and then they beat Pittsburgh 2 out of 3 games. And people are like, oh, this is where it begins. This is where the postseason begins. This is where our push begins. You played 3 bad teams in 4 series. Now, I'm not saying it's not a good thing. Good teams lose to bad teams all the time. The Yankees last year struggled to beat Baltimore and Toronto. However, this is a team that was below 500, made ridiculous acquisition in Marcus Stroman, and now it's like, we're firing on all cylinders. They sweep Miami, and then that's when the test began. The test for the Mets was Washington and Atlanta. They passed the Washington test, but they did not pass the Atlanta test. In that Atlanta game, they had the lead. I think it was either the 14th game. No, it was the 14th. I think it might have been the 14th. Yeah, it was the 14th, where the Mets' big problem showed. They put their best reliever, Seth Lugo, out on the mound in the 8th, and he gave up 5 runs. And that's their best reliever, and he's had a phenomenal July.
I mean, everyone has that bad day, but what I was gonna say was, like, the one thing that I'm looking at that like makes me say, oh well, that's a good sign. Their pitching had been very iffy in the beginning of the season, and just kind of looking at the past trend of games, obviously there's a couple blips, but for the most part, it looks like the starting pitching's been doing their job, which is all you can really ask.
Oh yeah. The starting pitching has never been the big problem for the Mets, because the fact is, when Syndergaard the problem with Syndergaard has been health and inconsistency. He's been very consistent this past month and a half, and he's been pitching like himself. DeGrom has been pitching like himself all year, outside of like a rough stretch of like 3 or 4 starts. He's been himself, and they have Stroman, who's been as advertised. He's a stingy starter who pitches extremely effectively, and that's all you can ask for. The fact is, in that 10-8 game, that it looks like they, going into the 9th, it was a 10-4 game. And then they almost blew that.
I mean, sometimes you just have a, I'm sorry. Sometimes it's just a matter of the fact that you had a bad inning or two, but as long as you find a way to win games, that's all you can really ask for. And I understand what you're saying. They really didn't have a tough test. However, you still went out there and you still took care of business. I mean, they very easily could have gone over that stretch and they still could have won all the same series, but they didn't have to sweep all those series. You know what I mean? Like, they swept Pittsburgh, they swept Chicago, they swept the back-to-back Minnesota games. I mean, this is stuff that you kind of take for granted because they're playing San Diego, but like at the same time, like winning those series, like that counts for something. Like that doesn't just like not.
I want
count.
to say it doesn't count, but the fact is can they fight back to take the wild card from Chicago, from Washington, from Philly, who has the same exact record as them, from Milwaukee, who is trying to claw their way back to the postseason. Even San Fran, though they're only 63 and 62, they're only 3.5 games out. They have a lot of teams that are trying to make it to that second wild card.
I mean, I know you said look at you just named all the teams that they played, right? San Francisco and the Nationals are both within a realistic stretch of winning the wild card.
Well,
so
the Nationals are in the wild card. That's why that was such a big series for them, but the Nationals have a significantly better record and more of a cushion than the Mets have. The Mets don't have a cushion because the Mets aren't in the wild card. The Mets have to play Cleveland, then Atlanta again, and then the Cubs. Now and then the Phillies, and then Washington. They have a ridiculously hard schedule. This is what I don't give a shit about how they could beat bad teams. That's a good thing. Good teams have to beat bad teams. That got them over the hurdle to 500. The question is, are they going to be like the Braves last year? The Braves last year, they had a phenomenal record against the NL East. That's why they won the NL East. And they beat all the bad teams, but they couldn't beat the teams over 500. they were the only team in the postseason last year that had a losing record against teams over 500, and outside the one loss they had to the Dodgers in like a walk-off, they did not look good in any of those games. The Braves this year are better than the Braves last year, and so the question is: are the Mets really firing on all cylinders, or are they the Braves of last year?
I mean, it looks like coming up next week, starting next week, or later this week
Oh, yeah, that's
actually,
what I'm
they get
saying.
Atlanta, Chicago, then they go to Philly, then they go to Washington, and they go back to Philly. So you'll pretty much know about where they're going to stand by the end of the first week of September. Because if they blow those, I mean, that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 series against direct competitors for the wild card. So like, you're going to know where they're going to be based on those
Yeah, because
series.
I think this is like probably the hardest upcoming record for any team.
And then they go
In
to Arizona, and then they get the Dodgers after that. So
well, no, the blue is all home games. They're no, that's the advantage for the Mets. They are playing at home in Flushing, and the fan base is suddenly rejuvenated, and like, oh my god, this is really happening. But Cleveland, Atlanta, and Chicago, even though you're playing them at home, Chicago sucks on the road, so that could be a good thing for them. But Cleveland's been surging. Atlanta is still very strong team. Then a very strong team, and then they have to go face the two other people they're fighting in the wild card race.
I mean, for me,
And so,
those three series, at Philly, at Washington, and then at home against Philly, like those are the three like huge ones. Honestly, I mean, Chicago is like also a really big series, but Philly, Washington, Philly,
well, all of these.
on the road though, like that's the true test for a team. If you're surging, those are 6 games that you've got to go and you've got to win on opponent's turf.
Well, yeah, but I mean, this whole stretch is going to be ridiculously challenging, and they're ridiculously trying for these guys because the fact is this is like it was enough of a test for them to get over 500. Now, of course, they've been playing without Jeff McNeil. Jeff McNeil's been like the DJ LeMahieu of the Nets, so all like they're vying for a batting title and such. And so of course they've been playing out their best player. But regardless of that, they have a lot of hard teams. This is going to be like the biggest week for them, no question about it. And they have to they also have to finish the year against Atlanta, so that'll be interesting. But Yankees down the stretch. Want to take a quick look at that. They're going to the West Coast. They're playing in Oakland. Oakland has always been a tough place for the Yankees. In 2017, they got swept in 4 games there. Last year, I think they took one, or they may have won that series. I don't remember last year if they won that series or not.
At
Apparently,
Oakland, at Dodgers, at Seattle are the next 3
yeah.
series.
Seattle, whatever. Seattle sucks. Dodgers. Now the Oakland series is big because Oakland's a very good team and they suck at playing at Oakland. Dodgers, that is the big challenge. Dodgers are the other best team in the league. The best teams in the league are Yankees, Dodgers, Astros. Now, the Yankees are done playing the Astros. Yankees, this is going to be the toughest team they have to face. If they can win that series, there's no reason to think that the Yankees are not the best team. This is that is the fight for best team in baseball bragging rights for that week. And this is because outside Dodgers are been firing on all cylinders since the beginning of the season, and so it'll be very interesting. That's going to be the most interesting series. That's going to be the series that probably ends up meaning the most of this road trip. So it'll be interesting.
So then they
And
come
then
home and they get Oakland again in New York.
yeah, in New York, I feel fine about them playing anyone in New York.
Yeah,
You
then they
know,
get Texas again in New York, and then they go to Boston for a 4-game series.
in Texas yeah. Then they go the Boston series. I'm not worried about Boston. They're so far out. They're not. They had lost their ace, and they're struggling. But the fact is, the Yankees suck at Fenway. That's just how it's always been. And so it'd be nice to see him win 2 out of 4 there. Better get win the series. I'd love to see him win the series. And Detroit and Toronto, I mean, they have a night like the Yankees. September is an easy schedule compared to the Mets. The Mets have the hardest, I think, easily the hardest second half schedule of any team. The Yankees have probably the easiest outside the Oakland games and the series in Fenway. The rest of those, like Texas, has been up and down all season. They're about a 500 team, and Tigers are literally the worst team in the league. They have the most losses. It's been mostly dumpster fire. Though it was interesting. They played the Rays, and the Rays got shut out by them 2-0, and then they got shut out by the Rays 1-0. So that was interesting. In 13 innings. Angels at home. The Angels have been, despite having the best player in the league, still suck. Toronto, once again, their offensive talent is there. Bo Bichette has been nuts. Vladimir Guerrero Jr. is hitting dingers off things that shouldn't be hit. He made he hit Zach Britton. It was a sinker exactly where you want a sinker to go. It was out of the zone, in the bottom of the zone. It was out below the zone. He reached down and knocked that out of Rogers Center. And then the other day, I don't know who he hit it off of, but it's like a changeup low and inside that everyone either swings and misses or fouls it into themselves, knocks it over the left field wall without even taking like a step. So the raw power of that lineup is frightening. But the pitching, not that I don't see a single series that the Yankees should lose on paper for September outside of Oakland being the tough matchup, and Tampa Bay is always going to be a tough competitor, but I have to wait and see. So yeah, that's about it for me.
All right, nothing else. Want me to move on?
Oh, here's one more interesting thing I want to say. Even if the Yankees, I'm just reading this right now, the Yankees finished 17-19 over the last 36 games. They would still win 100 games. So if they go over 500, they go 18-18. They're 100 and they're beating their record from last year. So because Boone potentially has to be the chance to be the first Yankee manager to win back-to-back 100-win seasons.
I mean, look at the team that he was dealt, though. To be fair.
Oh no, he was dealt a great team, but I don't buy in all that bullshit because last year Alex Cora was given a great team and then won 108 games. Everyone's like, "Go worship Alex Cora! Quickly, someone go throw a beer can at him as he carries the World Series trophy." And so, Alex Cora was handed the best team in baseball and won 108 games. I mean, the fact is Boone still has to make decisions. I mean, it's not like he was given a shit team. I'm not saying that, but it's still just winning 100 games, being having to manage and deal with all that talent. It still takes a lot. So, shit.
So I'm gonna pivot to football. Talk about some of the how deep we can go into this. Okay, so for those of you who don't know,
Peter Meme.
Okay, relax.
Nathan Peter Meme.
Relax. We'll get there.
Savior of the Oakland Raiders.
We'll get there. So for those of you who don't know, the NFL is always trying to improve the padding and the helmets and stuff to be able to best protect the players. And a certain player who was a wide receiver on the Pittsburgh Steelers, that is no longer a wide receiver on the Pittsburgh Steelers, Antonio Brown. I'm sure that most of you know him. What pretty much... Okay, you're going to stop groaning over top of me?
No. Sorry, continue.
Antonio Brown, pretty much the face of wide receivers in the league, considering the fact that Julio Jones is just so quiet, and then you obviously got Odell Beckham Jr. out in Cleveland now, but is currently holding out because he has decided he does not like the way that the helmet feels. I can't even believe that sentence just came out of my mouth. So, source, he files the grievance over the helmet. So he is not happy. He's legitimately pissed, and was last I checked, he was holding out of some of the practices and stuff. Like he really is adamant that he should not have to switch his helmet, which you're getting paid millions of dollars. Wear your damn helmet, but whatever. I get that. I mean, if you're playing a sport and you've been playing a sport all your life and you're used to a certain feel and then it changes, I can understand, not necessarily being happy about that. But at a certain point, you've kind of just got to say, you know what, it'll be okay. So
one of the interesting things about this is that he's not the only one who's had problems with it. Tom Brady has also complained about the helmet, saying it's very restrictive of what he can see.
yes, but has he been holding out of practices?
Oh no, I'm not saying. I think Antonio Brown's dealing with this the entirely wrong way, as he deals with most things. But I'm just saying it's interesting because he's not the only one who's complained about it.
Yeah, it says we are into week 3 of him. He's trying to find an NFL-approved helmet that he's willing to wear. So pretty much, the Raiders have come out and they've said we need to know if he's either going to be on this team or he's not going to be on this team. They don't have the time or the patience for him to continue to play these games. Considering how much of a blockbuster trade it was for them to pick him up, it would be very detrimental for them to not have one of the best wide receivers in the league play for them this season. Unfortunately, you can't make a man suit up in something he's not comfortable in. So if he genuinely feels like it's restrictive to what he can see, you're not going to be able to make him play. You're just not. At the end of the day, this man has to go home and he wants to be able to live when he gets home. And so if he feels like he can't see and it's going to be detrimental to how he's able to play the game of football, he's not going to want to play the game of football. And I can, to a certain degree, understand that. I do think that he needs to be careful on how he continues to go about it, but it kind of is just going to be what it's going to be. Like Matt brought up, there have been other players such as Tom Brady who have also been complaining about the helmets. But as far as I know, he's the only one that is specifically holding out against it, at least for the helmets. Last I checked, Ezekiel Elliott, pretty much. Yeah, so this is what this. So Ezekiel Elliott is holding out for a pay increase. He's kind of doing something similar to what Le'Veon Bell did, which is kind of a dangerous precedent that Le'Veon Bell set because now everybody is going to be holding out for contract extensions.
Yeah, but here's the thing, though, is it didn't work for Le'Veon Bell. It did,
I bet you he would argue that it did work. I bet you he would argue it did work, and here's why.
Well, he would, but Le'Veon Bell's been acting like a moron. He spent the whole season in Miami pretending to be a rapper.
Well, let me explain to you why he's going to tell you that it works. At the end of the day, he didn't want to play because he didn't want to risk his body because when he felt like he wasn't being paid enough, right? Well, now he got to sit out for 2 seasons, and yes, he lost 2 seasons of his career, but if he's out here to make his living and that's it, and he doesn't care about racking up a bunch of stats, he was able to go 2 years without getting hit and not sustaining any injuries, and then he comes back and he's still able to get a payday. That's a win in his book. And for Ezekiel Elliott, he's only on the books for $900,000 this season, and I know it's it's kind of hard to say only. But when you're as good as he is, to be getting paid less than $1 million, and you're putting your body on the line every day, I mean, especially when you're playing running back, that's a grueling position. Somebody could absolutely fall on his knee, and that's the end of his career right then. So I kind of understand him wanting to protect himself, but at the same time, holding out, I feel like doesn't get anything done because it just makes the teams resentful, and they're not going to want to work with you.
No, exactly, and if the Jets weren't the Jets, how many teams do you really think are yes, Le'Veon Bell, that's exactly the type of person I want in my locker room? And I think Jerry Jones had the best response. Zeke who, he claimed he was joking, of course, but I thought it was hilarious still. But it was
So
I don't know. I don't like it. I think it sets a very dangerous precedent of players having a lot of control. Which, not that players shouldn't have any control, but the fact is you signed to a contract. That's your contract. You can
I personally think that
what?
there needs to be a rework of how the contracts do work, though, because for somebody like Ezekiel Elliott, you're not going to sign them for a huge contract coming out of the draft. However, playing a position like running back, like your career could absolutely, your prime could be the first 6 or 7 years you're in the league, and if you spend 4 of that signed for such cheap money, it's kind of leaving them a small window to really able to go out and make a living. And I understand, they're still getting paid more money than 90% of the population is getting paid for their work. But at the same time, like if this is their profession, and a lot of times they're not going to be able to go out and do other work after this. So this is where they have to make their money for the rest of their lives. You know what I mean? So I
I
can
mean,
kind of understand it.
I can kind of understand it, but it's. I mean, so the NFL and the NBA have like terrible players unions compared to some other unions. Like for example, the MLB's player union is the strongest like sports union out there, and you in baseball it's simple. Like you're signed to a contract, that's your contract. And now what I think the like are you, like how do you think that they fix this? Do you think they do something like with a baseball contract where you get where they work out like a bargaining deal where you get like X amount of years of team control and then you get arbitration? Or like, what do you think like solves the problem of people wanting to hold out?
So
I
I
can see what
think
you're saying about them wanting to hold out.
so. I'm pretty much what I'm trying to say is like I think that especially for a position so the difference I think so in basketball it makes sense and in baseball it makes sense because those are much more like you're likely to have a much longer career in you know baseball or basketball than you are in football. It's just kind of the nature of the game. Football is such a grueling game. You get hit so many times. I think the average career is like less than 5 years. So it's when you count all the players in that come in for 1 year, then they don't make it or stuff like that. So like to be able to hold a player up for 3, 4, 5 years is a little ridiculous in my opinion. So I think could solve the problem would be to
I mean, like for as many years as a baseball contract, baseball is not the same sport that football is. Baseball, like a good like an average, like a good career for an average player an average player can play like 10 years.
exactly.
It's
So
it's a very different. Like I don't mean like oh yes they control it. Like it's like the contract coming out, it'll be controlled for 6 years like it is in baseball.
I was thinking maybe something along the lines of so I don't know exactly what the best option is because there's a lot of semantics that you have to deal with. You don't want to completely screw over the teams, you don't want to completely screw over the players. But if I was looking at it, something that I would bring up would be, what if we just kind of instead of starting out with X amount of like I don't know how many years exactly that they start out with for team control, but maybe start with two. Maybe you could even go by certain positions because at the end of the day, there are some positions that are just going to get hit more often than other positions. But I think the best way to do it, in my opinion, would just be kind of like a blanket statement: rookie contracts, guaranteed team control for 2 years because you want the first year to see how they do, and then the second year to see if it's repeatable, and then after that, their contract is up because. At the end of the day, if your career is only going to be 5 years long, and then you're tied up in team control for 4 of that, where's your payday coming? And
Because it is yeah. So it's a 4-year contract. Okay. Yeah, I just looked it up too.
it's 4 years, right?
Yep. I mean, like yeah, but I mean, a 2-year rookie contract. The fact is, you want to try and like control the young players and like get your young core.
I mean, absolutely. And
Like,
for example, for the Eagles, that worked out well, right? They had Carson Wentz, who quickly became one of the top young quarterbacks in the league, and he was under control for like a couple $1 million for 4 years, and that allowed them to build a team around him. And now they're gonna have to pay him, and they're gonna have to restructure the team. But my point is like, especially for a running back like Ezekiel Elliott, who gets as many touches as he does. I mean, he's got by far the most touches in the league. It's not even close, even with the games that he's missed. He's still got the most touches in the league, and that's grueling on a running. I mean, if you think about it, every single play, if you're a running back, you're getting hit, and sometimes you're not even running for a long time before you get hit. You could just get to the line of scrimmage and get absolutely leveled by a linebacker, and you know what? He
mhm.
pops back up and he goes and he does it again, and you know, at the end of the day, your body can only withstand so many big hits like that, and so if his contract is 4 years long and his career and his body's only able to hold up for 6 years, it doesn't give him a lot of room to make money. So, in my opinion, I almost think it would make more sense start with 2 years team control and then go from there. And if a player is good enough, then they can re-sign. But if they don't live up to it, then you can kind of get rid of that contract earlier. I think it kind of works out both ways because if you tie up a guy for 4 years and he doesn't perform, then you have him on the books for no reason. But if you and then obviously if they're not good enough, they can get rid of them a lot faster. So I think they just shortening the contract. I know that's kind of hard to do because at the end of the day, like
You got to
nobody's
deal with
gonna want to
Players
give up.
Association and
And nobody's gonna want to give up
collective
control of their
bargaining.
rookies. No one's gonna want to give up control of their rookies. So I mean, Melvin Gordon's kind of in a similar position. He's holding out for a contract too, and that's the star running back for the Chargers. The Chargers were a very competitive playoff team last year. That would be a huge loss for them. But at the end of the day, what can you do? Like you've got to be able to give him a chance to make his money. You don't know how long. I mean, he already had a knee problem last year. Do you know how long he's going to be able to continue to run the football at a high level? Especially some of these guys that are not the quick outside get out of bounds guys like Darren Sproles. He's been in the league forever because there's always going to be a job. As long as he can run, there's always going to be a job for him. Because all he's got to do is he's got to catch the ball in the flats and he's got to get upfield as quickly as he can and then get out of bounds. He's not the ground and pound back. But Ezekiel Elliott and Melvin Gordon are such big backs. A lot of times they're handing the football off knowing they're only going to get 3 or 4 yards before they get absolutely swallowed up. But that's their job, is to lower their head and lower their shoulders and drive into these linemen. And so, I mean, that's hard on the body. I completely understand why they're holding out for contracts, but I think there's got to be a better way of doing it other than them not playing. Like there should be a better way of negotiating other than saying I'm not going to play for you this year. Because it's not good for the league. Think about it. Think about how different the league would have been over the
Oh,
past
it's
few years
terrible for the leagues.
think about how different the league would have been if Le'Veon Bell had played the past few years. The Steelers were already a good team. They were already a great team. Look at all the damage James Conner did last year. Imagine if Le'Veon Bell had the football instead.
That's the other thing, though, is like they're also these holdouts are also stupid because, in my opinion, because the Steelers end up finding someone who is very good, like a solid running back, and Ezekiel Elliott. Though I'm not saying James Conner is or what's his name?
James Conner, you're right.
Yeah, so it's James Conner. Okay, I'm not saying he's the level of Le'Veon Bell because Le'Veon Bell is like a top tier. The fact is, if you can get a good running back, and he's not going to cause you the drama, you're going to take that running back. So, I mean, that's another risk that they're running by not playing. They end up risking being replaced.
So last year, James Conner,
I'm very
who
concerned.
was
I'm very
completely
concerned because
unheard of, pretty much, basically completely unheard of, coming into last year. Yeah, for his career coming into last year, he had less than 200 yards rushing for his career. So he was a nobody essentially. He came in and he went to the Pro Bowl. He had 215 rushing attempts. He had
I'm very
973
concerned.
yards
I'm very
and 12
concerned.
touchdowns. I mean, and this was a nobody. No offense to James Conner, obviously he's a much better football player than I'll ever be. But in the 2017 season, he had 32 rushing attempts for 144 yards. No touchdowns. He comes in to replace Le'Veon Bell, lights the league on fire. So, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised to see him hold out for a contract. If he can repeat what he did last year this year, I wouldn't be surprised to see him hold out for a contract next year if he's still under contract. Because at the end of the day, I mean, that's very solid production coming out of a running back slot, and he's getting paid next to nothing. He wasn't signed until the third round in 2017. So his contract's even smaller than Ezekiel Elliott.
Oh,
He's
yeah.
only getting paid $900,000. So he came out of nowhere and lit up the league. Imagine when Antonio Brown and Le'Veon Bell. Imagine what those two could have done together on the field. It would have been basically the same thing that was. I mean, think about what Saquon Barkley and Odell Beckham did in New York on a terrible team with no quarterback throwing the football. Because you still can't convince me that at this point in his career, Eli Manning is a quarterback.
No, absolutely not.
The most effective play they ran all year was when Odell Beckham Jr. Was a quarterback. That's all I'm saying. What was that, like a 75-yard pass to Saquon or something? It was a ridiculous play. I remember that. But he would have had basically another rendition of that in Philly. I mean, they would have had two top tier athletes that were at the top pinnacle of their position on the same field. That's dirty. But because of the fact that Le'Veon Bell wanted a contract and the Steelers weren't willing to work with him on it, the league missed out on that. And it's a bad look for the league, I think, because it makes everybody kind of look at the league like, oh, what the hell's going on over there? And quite frankly, it's a bad look for the players because people like you and I can sit here and be like, oh, bro, like you're getting paid $900,000. Why the hell aren't you playing football? Just go have fun. It's like a game that everybody loves. It's $900,000. Just go. But what you can't understand if you don't play a sport competitively is how grueling it can be on your body. And I think anybody who's gonna come at these guys' heads for sitting out, think about the fact that they're 24, 25 years old. They've got to live the rest of their lives with that same body. They don't get a new one. So if Ezekiel Elliott goes out there and gets banged around and can't walk the rest of his life, that's a decision that he's got to live with, and that's something that he knows is a risk every time he steps out on the football field. Would you want to not be able to? Would you take $900,000 this year to never be able to walk again? That's the question you got to ask yourself, because every time they play on that field, it could be absolutely like Ryan Shazier, another Steelers player, absolute tragic injury, who's 3-4 years later still struggling to even be able to walk, let alone be able to play football again. So is $900,000 worth your ability to walk? That's basically what they have to ask themselves every time they suit up. You have any thoughts?
Yeah, no, I mean, I agree, but like, I don't know, I just feel like there should be a better way to handle it than just not playing.
I agree that there's got to be better. That's what I was saying. Like, there's got to be
Well,
a better
no,
way to handle it than
I
not
know.
playing. There absolutely should be a better way to handle it than not playing. But at the same time, before you just say, "Oh, just go out there and play football," keep in mind
I mean, still,
they
like
could
$900,000 is still a lot of money that a lot of people would take to go do something like this. Like, I get that they're like the best and they might not have their primes for long, but the fact is that that's still more money than I was told. Yeah, I need you to go get tackled by a few linebackers like linemen for a couple. If I give you $100,000, you go play 16 games and just get beat around, absolutely.
Okay, well, let me ask
No
you
one's gonna
this.
make that kind of money,
Let me,
and that's not including endorsements. That's not including shit they do on the side. That's not including like commercials like that. There's
I
so
mean,
much
that's
money that
true.
they're making. All like
That's true. But what
most
about
football
Ryan
players.
Shazier? What about Ryan Shazier? He's 4 years later, I think his injury. Let me look up when his injury was. I think it was 2016. He's still not able to walk. And
Well, yeah, but I'm not saying that's not terrible, but like that's what happens when you play football. It's like the physically demanding sport on the planet. That's like it's terrible. But he went out there and, like there was one guy on the
2017. I'm sorry.
the Bears who his knee bent in the wrong way and he almost lost his leg and could have potentially died from playing football.
You're
And he
gonna
was
you're gonna put
making,
your you're gonna essentially risk your life for $900,000.
most people would.
Because well, here's my
And
counterpoint to that.
those are extreme injuries, but there is so like I'm never gonna find a like the fact is I'm never gonna like think there's a single good reason to hold out for 2 years or any amount of time because the fact is all you're doing is damaging like all of Pittsburgh hates Le'Veon Bell.
In my opinion, and
I guarantee you the owners hate Le'Veon Bell.
this is my humble opinion. I think you're looking at this from a fan's perspective and maybe the ownership's perspective. I'm trying to come at it from a player's point
Oh,
of
I don't
view,
give a
right?
shit. Ownership's greedy as fuck, but like I think you should get paid more than I think it should get paid more than $900,000. But the fact is, like, regardless of everything, the fans are the ones who pay you.
Absolutely, and I get that. But
So
at the end of the day, right? So at the end of the day, this is their career, right? You and I, we could go play football for a year or two, and then we could still go and get a desk job after that. You know what I mean? Like we'll still have something that we can go back to, and we can decide, okay, this is what I can do with my life now that football's over, right? A lot of these guys, especially if they leave school early or they only got into school to play football, they don't have the opportunity to go and make a living doing a desk job. So if they get hurt or something like that, that's it for them.
well,
Whatever they made playing football
that's
is what they
another
made.
huge problem because there's been a lot of studies and lots of like investigations done. The fact is, the NCAA does not care about like academics at the D1 level. Like most of these people get like degrees that are useless. So
Or
like,
even if they do get the degree, right? Especially in football. I mean, if you look at a lot of the brain scans and stuff that are coming out now, I mean, there are players that didn't even play professionally, that only played in college, that are mentally at the capacity of a teenager right now, a preteen right now, because they just took so much beating from playing football for that many years. I mean, at the end of the day, you go play football for 4 years to come out and you can't work at all because the sport is that grueling. Think about what some of these guys that are playing professionally are going to be able to do when they come out of the sport. You know what I mean?
yeah, but
I mean, you're having players like Calvin Johnson retire early because he decided that he wanted to be able to walk and he wanted to be able to talk when he was older. And I mean, he was on his way down from his prime, but he was still a top tier wide receiver in the league. The sport is just grueling, and that kind of just is what it is, and there's a risk that comes with it. And I understand as a fan, you want to see your players out there, and the fans are ultimately the ones that pay a paycheck because they want to see you play and
no,
make hay.
even from the player's point of view, because like I had to do this whole thing throughout the entire in college. You had to read oh god, it was the one about the NFL covering up injuries. The injuries. I mean, that's like a whole other side to this. For the fact is you don't like what you're getting paid. If I do not think this makes any sense. I don't think it's smart. From regardless of an ownership perspective, regardless of a fan's perspective, you make yourself look like a fucking cancer. Because that's what Le'Veon Bell seems like to a lot of the league. Everyone's like, great player, clubhouse cancer.
Okay, yeah, but at the end of the day, he got to play 2 years without getting hit. I mean, he got to not play for 2 years without getting hit. He didn't sustain any more damage. His body got to heal and recover from the years that he already played, and he came back and he still got a payday. And so at the end of the day, if I was a player and I was in his position, right? I'm at the top of the sport. I'm the best in my position. I don't know that you would catch me not sitting out. I would probably, realistically, if I was getting paid $900,000 and I knew that every time I got to step out on the field, I could potentially lose my ability to walk, and I was legitimately as good as Le'Veon Bell is, I may consider sitting out because at the end of the day, why would I want to risk myself and risk the rest of my life for something that's at this point in
But
my career?
the other thing is though, yeah, the contract seems well. Like for example, Troy Polamalu made a lot of money from his contracts. Made a bunch more money from Head and Shoulders, from having long hair and being a football player with long hair. So I'm sorry, but there's so many more ways for them to make money than just this contract.
Yeah, but the second
Well,
that they get hurt, that all that income is
and
done.
also we're talking about extreme injuries.
People rip their
Like,
ACL all the time.
yeah, and like there's this one kid in my school, Nico, tore his ACL just jogging on a baseball field. Andrew McCutcheon got stuck in a rundown and tore his ACL like trying to run back to first. Like it's like that.
I
Like,
mean,
like
those are a lot more freak injuries in real life than they are playing football. People like I would argue that there's probably an ACL a week when the season comes around.
what the fuck is on my?
So I mean,
Oh,
I'm not saying that it's
God.
100% justifiable. I'm just saying like before you write it off as oh it's a complete bonehead decision. How could you possibly do that? Take into consideration this is their life that they've got to be able to go and live outside of football too.
Yeah, and I understand that, but once again, there is more money in football outside of the contracts than there is inside any contract will ever give you, with the exception of like, oh god, think blanking on the name. Oh god,
I
hold
mean,
on.
my counterpoint to that would be while you're thinking, my counterpoint to that would be yeah, I get it. There's more money in being able
Russell
to do
Wilson
Russell Wilson, yeah.
getting paid a shitload of money for, you know.
Yeah, but so while you're playing and while you're at the top of your game, you can make a lot of money doing ads and stuff like that, right? You get hurt or you're just not as good anymore, all those contracts are going to go away. And I get that while you're holding out, you can't be having new contracts either. But if you can
Yeah,
prolong
that's
the
gonna.
longevity of your career by not playing for a few years and then coming back, That's a whole nother set of 5, 6 years that because your body had time to recover for 2 years. Maybe you can play for another 5 years that you have the ability to have ads for. Because at the end of the day, if Le'Veon comes out next year and kills the game and lights it up for the Jets, ain't nobody gonna remember that he sat out for 2 years.
But yeah, that's a big if, because even the year before, like even the year before, the years before he decided to start holding out, he got injured, and didn't play a lot of the season. It's like, oh, he's such a great player, And the fact is, if he comes back, it sucks. No one's gonna like. It's gonna be like, oh well, he wasted his prime. That's what he's gonna be remembered for. He's wasting his prime.
I mean,
Because though, yes, he's
Michael
still
Jordan
gonna
took Michael Jordan took 2 years off in the middle of his basketball career to go and play baseball. No one remembers that. When they think about Michael Jordan, they remember 6 rings.
Oh yeah,
So at the end of the day, to a certain extent, the ends justify the means. If he comes back and he has
yeah.
a
But
great end of his career,
we're gonna compare Michael. We're gonna compare him to Michael Jordan.
it was the first thing that came to mind. I'm sorry that it's 1:40 in the morning and I worked 10 hours today, and my basketball comparisons were not on point.
Good God, cannot compare. That was that. You need to go say you need to go to confession or something. You need
I
to
was
go.
not. I was not. I did not directly compare them. I was just saying, hey, look, here's another example of do you remember this random thing that this guy did? That's the most obvious example, isn't it? I mean, he's the most famous basketball player, and probably, I think, is he? I mean, he's not universally accepted as the best of all time, but he's universally accepted as one of the best of all time.
Yeah, with the exception of LeBron fans.
He's one of the best of all time, and he gave up his career in the middle of his career to go try to play baseball for the White Sox. And you know what? It didn't work out for him. And he came back and he still had another great run. But at the end of the day, 6 rings. And that's all that people remember. And an
Yeah,
absolute killer on the court, to be fair.
Yeah, but I mean, that's implying. The fact is that Le'Veon Bell could have been doing plenty to keep himself, in football shape. Yeah, but the fact is, Le'Veon Bell has been. I mean, all he showed and all he had, as a. Oh God, what was I trying to say here? All he ever had to show for himself, I totally forgot what I was fucking trying to say.
Well, how about this? Here's a better comparison for you. Do you know who Adrian Peterson is? I know you're not a big football guy.
Yeah.
He was an absolute monster for the Vikings when he was in his prime. He lit the league up. I think he's still around, but he's not the same player anymore. But
No, yeah.
he lit the league up for years. Right, kind of at the end of his prime, he had a problem come out where he was being charged for abuse against his kid. No one knows that. No one remembers that. All he remembers is a great football player. And that cost him, I believe that cost him a few weeks of the NFL season because he had to go to trial and stuff. So, at the end of the day, as long as you perform, people aren't going to remember. It just kind of is what it is. I mean, think about all the shit that Odell Beckham Jr. goes through and Odell Beckham Jr. does. I mean, he's on the field and all the shit that he brings with him. No one, I mean, obviously, you think because of the fact that he's such a big personality, it does come up sometimes. But primarily, when you say Odell Beckham Jr., probably the first thing you think of is that catch. And for those of you who don't know what that catch is, I will quickly. Here you go, Odell Beckham Jr. catch. I'm gonna. I'll look up
Here's
this.
the running back. Play action. And Manning.
Eli Manning's probably last good throw ever.
There's a flag.
That's what you think of when you think of Odell Beckham Jr. That is what you think of Odell Beckham Jr. That catch is insane. Arguably, look at this. He's getting completely thrown around by Brandon Carr. I don't even know how he tiptoed to keep his feet in bounds. One-handed falling down. That's what you think of when you think of Odell Beckham Jr. You don't think of all his drama when he was kneeling down to the net and he proposed to the net and he hit. You don't think of that. You think of plays like this. Players get remembered for the great things that they do on the field, on the court. They are not remembered for that one time when they created some drama. So I understand what you're saying on how it makes Le'Veon Bell look bad.
I don't entirely agree with that either because, Kurt Schilling, one of the greatest pitchers of all time, still not in the Hall of Fame, not because he was a bad player, because of all the shit he did off the field. And he's remembered as a complete jerk-off. for all this shit he does off the field. The fact is, Adrian Peterson's still playing, and people, have the fact is he beat his kid with a switch. It's not that people aren't going to remember that. People are going to pretend it didn't happen. There's a big difference. So, regardless, my position's not changing on this. I think it's a risk. I mean, I agree they're risking a lot, their bodies and stuff. But the fact is, it's you risk being replaced. You risk losing out on your best years, regardless of if your body heals and you're keeping yourself in shape. It's I don't know.
I mean, for the record, I don't. For the record, I don't really fully support the holdout. I do think that there needs to be a better way to ask for a different contract or.
No, no, I think that there's no excuse for the contracts. I think, and everyone knows that Bell was worth more than his contract. Elliott is worth way more than his contract.
And so is Melvin Gordon. They're all
you're not
kind
going to
of in
find
the
an
same
argument
boat.
on that. I 100% agree. But the fact is you can't this isn't going to change because you decided to hold out. What's going to change is that a bunch of players are going to start holding out, and then you're going to have problems.
Well, unfortunately, to start a change, to start a movement, you've got to start somewhere. And so, I think
The
that
fact is, the NFL's not going to want to do anything until it comes time for their next collective bargaining agreement, which I don't know when. Assuming they have one.
if they do have one, I don't know when it's coming up, but I know they do have
Yeah,
one.
whenever that comes up.
But so what I'm saying, what I was thinking, and what I was going to eventually get to, I spaced out for a minute there. I understand that it's frustrating that Le'Veon Bell is doing this. However, what him and other players that are holding out are doing is they're making a statement. They're making a statement that they're not going to just sit there and take whatever contracts that they're given. And so when it does come time for the next collective bargaining agreement, they have a leg to stand on and say, look, this is what's going to happen if you don't work with us, if you don't kind of give us something that we can work with. And so they'll have kind of a baseline to kind of work off of. And so, unfortunately, the first people in every movement get shunned. But I think that while not a favorable step for the league, it is a necessary step because otherwise nothing's going to get done. If no one raises their voice about what's happening with these contracts, it's never going to be changed. So I think I don't necessarily agree that there's got to be a better way to negotiate these contracts than just completely holding out and not playing football. But at the same time, I can't blame them for doing it because if they don't do it, who's going to? That's all I was trying to say. And then what I was trying to do is I was trying to play devil's advocate for a minute and try to think of it like what could be going through like a player's mind. Because at the end of the day, yeah, it's really easy for you to say that yeah, sure, I'll go out and get beat up for a few games for $100,000. At the end of the day, you haven't felt a football hit. It's really easy to say that until you get hit. The same way everybody says, "Oh yeah."
That's the reason I quit.
Yeah, exactly. The same way everybody says, "Oh yeah," like I would know what to do if someone like broke in right now. Like you don't know how you're gonna react until you're in that moment. So like,
Can we not compare this to home invasion?
can you let me finish? All I was saying
Yes, I suppose
was
I can.
I wasn't gonna get any further into it. All I was gonna say is everybody always thinks that they're prepared until it happens, and then they're not prepared anymore.
Yeah.
I wasn't.
So what's our like ideal solution here? Is the ideal solution just a shorter rookie contract, or
I
like
think.
a rookie contract with 2 year, like you have to you have arbitration for the next 2 years?
I think a shorter contract could be a place to start, or there's just got to be a better way to renegotiate the contracts.
Yeah.
Like, I think the best thing that they could do would be to shorten the contracts, because then there's just like, okay, yeah, you want a bigger contract, go out and earn it for 2 years, then you'll get a bigger contract. Like, it kind of takes it out. Like, if you're locked up for 4 or 5 years and you're outperforming it in the first year, you know that you're going to be underpaid for the next 3 or 4 years, and then by the end of that, are you going to be worth the money that you're worth right now? You know, so. Maybe you
Yeah.
could try shorter contracts, or maybe the right answer is, something that we haven't even thought of yet. Because obviously, if there's an easy solution, they probably would have done it by now. But I think we've kind of hit everything that we need to on football. I'm just gonna
Oh, yes.
tab over to basketball for a minute. I'll see if there's anything going on over there. I kind of remember this kind of being a dry period of time in basketball. A lot of the major free agents have signed.
Now it's just about DeMarcus Cousins ACL and oh god, the center for the Grizzlies currently.
Currently.
I think he literally just signed, and then now they're talking about signing with the Lakers because Lakers need a center. I should have thought about this more before we started. I was so focused on baseball.
It's all good. So yeah, DeMarcus Cousins ripped his ACL. We were just talking about ACLs. Actually, that's pretty funny. But yeah, I mean, if you were looking at the Lakers and you were hoping that the Lakers were going to be able to turn it around, and you were looking at Boogie to be one of those main guys, you were kind of, I think, a little lost. Like, yeah, could have been potentially a big pickup for them. Oh wow, they don't even have the rosters on here. That could have been a big pickup for them, absolutely. However, I think that it's important to remember that he has not been healthy for a lot of seasons now. So to expect him to stay healthy for a season, kind of far-fetched. So even I think when I was saying it, like even if I brought it up, like I understand, like he's not gonna stay healthy. It just kind of is what it is. Vince Carter re-signs with the Hawks, so he'll become the oldest player to play. First person to play his 22nd career. 22nd season in his career. I'm sorry. I'm trying to find what you were talking about, but I don't really see it here.
No, yeah, I can see if I can find it, but it's bad because the Lakers are looking for a new center now. So
Well, yeah, they are going to be looking for a new center now. I just saw reports that they're looking at Dwight Howard actually when I was in the.
I think I saw that, but I think I saw one other person. I know I saw the Dwight Howard thing, but there was someone else I was looking at.
Yeah.
But yeah, I did hear about.
So hopefully, DeMarcus Cousins, we all wish him a speedy recovery. He can get out there before the end of the season. He's just had some bad luck dealt the past few years. Then the Achilles, and then what was it? Did he tear his hamstring or something, or tear something in the beginning of the playoffs last year? So hopefully he's able to figure that out. Dwight Howard would kind of be an interesting pickup for the Lakers if they were to sign him. Dwight Howard is one of those guys where he's been shunned for the past few years, but like low key, he's still a very serviceable center. He's just getting overpaid everywhere he goes because his name is Dwight Howard. He's not the player that he was in on the Magic when he first started his career because he's just not that uber athletic anymore. But he could absolutely go out there and grab you a bunch of boards and lock down the paint for you. So that would be kind of a solid person to play alongside of Anthony Davis, I think, because Anthony Davis will be able to stretch the floor a little bit more. He's going to be a little bit more involved in the offense, pick and rolls and stuff like that, and then or even pick and pops because I mean he's got a little bit of a three on him, and you'll have your traditional center down there with Dwight Howard, so that could be interesting. I did see some massive disrespect the other day. I don't know, it wasn't on ESPN, so I wonder if they have it. It was the projection, the projections for the 2019-2020 NBA season. 2019-2020 season. They were predicting the.
I usually admit they're way too early.
Well, yeah, obviously it's way too early. But the Nugget. This was what I was for the West. The Nuggets being the number 2 seed, I think, ridiculous. That's some blasphemy. They may be placed in the number 2 seed, but if you legitimately think they're the second best team out in the West, you're in for a rude awakening. The Nuggets are a very good team. Don't get me wrong. They absolutely are going to have a great season. They are not the second best team in the West. When you look at the team that the Rockets have got, the two-man there are 3 teams with insane two-man duos: the Rockets, the Lakers, and the Clippers. All 3 of those teams, in my opinion, are better than the Nuggets. I mean, I understand that the Nuggets have a very solid. Honestly, I think the Jazz are a better, well-rounded team than the Nuggets are, but I'll get into that. I'm high on the Jazz this year.
Oh yeah. Question, because a lot of people were writing the Warriors off. What's changed that like Warriors are suddenly back? Like we'd be like, oh, they're gonna go to the playoffs.
So everybody wrote them off because it's really easy to say, oh, you lost Kevin Durant, there goes your whole team. What's important to remember is they've still got Stephen Curry, and initially the reason why everybody was saying like, okay, there goes their season is because Klay Thompson is out with an injury, so it's just going to be Steph and Draymond. But then when they turned the losing Durant into a sign and trade where they brought back D'Angelo Russell, what they did was they were able to give kind of Steph a sidekick, somebody take the ball out of his hands and make some plays. So he's not as good of a match next to him, I think, as Klay Thompson is. However,
but he should be serviceable for.
It's a place to start, and whenever you have whenever you have the pure shooter that Stephen Curry is, he's just going to be lethal on any team that has a second ball handler. So the Warriors are back up there. I do think that that's high for the Warriors. So I guess we could go through. We can make our rankings. I think. I mean, there's a difference in my opinion between who's going to finish high in the rankings in the regular season and who's going to perform in the postseason. So I don't. I mean, in terms of performing in the regular season, I think the Pelicans are too high. I would think the Kings are going to be higher. I think the Kings had a good year last year. I expect them to take more steps forward. I understand that the Pelicans signed a lot of those young players, but you don't know what Zion is going to be when he comes in. Quick side note: I did see a report that they're expecting that when voted on, they're expecting Cam Reddish and not Zion to have the best career of all the rookies this year. So just something to keep in mind. There's a lot of these players are seeing something that they don't like in him. So, you know, just because we're all high on him in the media doesn't mean that
I think they're worried about the injuries. I think they're worried about the injuries.
Whenever you have a body that size, injuries are gonna happen.
And he's already he got injured in the summer league.
Yeah. So.
And yeah, so I think they were worried about fluid injuries.
We'll get to the East in a second, but I'll stay out West because that's where most of the heat is right now. I think that I'm not gonna lie to you. I think they botched this. I'm not gonna lie. So let me just 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So their cutoff is at the Pelicans. That's where they think that. Okay, let me just. Their cutoff is at the Pelicans. That's kind of what they think is.
I think Blazers over Mavericks.
You think so?
Yeah. I don't know.
I mean, I agree.
This is my untrained.
So the one thing to keep in mind with the Mavericks is that you have to wait and see kind of how they're gonna fit together because you have to see how what's his name, Unicorn, Porzingis, how he's gonna come back from his injury because now they're bringing in him and Luka Doncic. So
True.
So how about this? What we can do is we'll create. You can have your list, and I'll have my list on what you think's gonna go on. So we'll go through yours first.
I think for the most part things are. I think Rockets. I think Clippers. I think Lakers. I'm going Jazz. And then I'll put the Warriors. And then I'll go Nuggets because like you said, or you've already said. And then I think Trailblazers and I think Mavericks. I don't think the Pelicans are making the post. I'm not convinced on the Pelicans yet. I was kind of convinced. I was convinced for a while, but I'm not sure.
I agree. So then, if you had to pick a ninth seed, if I had to pick a ninth seed,
I'd say Pelicans for ninth seed. But I don't think they're going to make it all the way. It depends entirely on Zion because if Zion could stay healthy, that'll be interesting. All is going to be very interesting. But
well, the thing is that the West really has 13. We're gonna give 12 to 13 legitimate teams that could make the playoffs because I think everybody's waiting for the Timberwolves to take that next step. They've been kind of hovering around for a few seasons now. The Spurs are always going to be in the mix because they got Pop and then they've got DeMar DeRozan. The Kings had a good season last year. The Grizzlies had a surprising season last year. Everybody's kind of waiting for the Suns to pick up. I mean, what's his name? Devin Booker has been putting up nothing but numbers. And just hasn't turned into wins yet. You would think at some point that's got to become wins. So it's going to be interesting out west, in my opinion. I honestly think that I think the Clippers are going to be the number 1 seed. I don't think that James Harden and Russell Westbrook is going to gel very seamlessly in the beginning of the season. So they may be the best team out west.
Yeah, I think that's. I mean, this is all based purely off stats, and I think it could take. I think it will take hiccups along the way, but I think I'm still sticking to my guns here.
Yeah, so I'll go through mine and then we'll see at the end. So I'm gonna go Clippers and then I'm gonna go I'll put the Rockets at 2. I'm gonna put the Jazz at 3. Probably put the Blazers at 4. They always have a great regular season. I'll put the Lakers at 5. I just think that it's going to take a minute for LeBron and Anthony Davis to figure out what their kind of combo is going to be, what works best for them. And then I've got the Nuggets, the Warriors. Do I drag? I think I'm going to put the Kings as my last playoff team.
Really?
I really think that De'Aaron Fox and that whole team, I wouldn't be surprised, man. They were kind of on the cusp of it there for a while this year, and I do believe that, like, as teams like the Mavericks, like the Lakers, like the Clippers and stuff like that are trying to put their teams together, the Kings are already going to have that chemistry. So that's kind of my upset pick, is for them to sneak into the playoffs. And then I think I'm going to pick the which teams did I leave out from your list? I left the team out from your list. I've got to figure out which one it
Mavericks
is.
and Pelicans you haven't mentioned.
Mavericks and Pelicans. I'll put the Mavericks in at the 9 seed for me.
Just missing.
Yeah, just missing. I think that these two are kind of interchangeable, Mavericks and Kings. Honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if the Warriors miss the playoffs and the Mavericks slide up. That's always going to depend on how D'Angelo Russell and Stephen Curry mesh together. So.
Yeah.
But I did see some pretty massive disrespect going on. In my opinion, at least, that's some pretty massive disrespect. That you've got the Nuggets, who for years have done nothing but prove that, they just haven't really been able to put it all together. And then suddenly we're gonna rank them as the 2 seed. Like, that seems high to me. I know they had a great season last season, but they really didn't improve this off season.
I mean, this is the way too early. I mean, the way too early for their MLB rankings. You had the Rays keeping the East, and that. I mean, they're right about the Red Sox. So the Red Sox weren't going to make it.
That's true. So I mean, you never know. I just felt like that was a little disrespectful that they had the Nuggets ranked above all those teams, in my opinion. And then I guess just to round it out, this will kind of be the end of it. There's not a whole lot else going on in basketball. We can go through the East real quick if you want.
Nets number 1, 82-0.
Okay.
Undisputed. Okay.
Without Kevin Durant? I'll do mine first for this one, since you did yours first for the last one.
Sounds good.
I agree. I think the 76ers are going to be the 1 seed. I think the Bucks. This is a little bit more straightforward in the East, honestly. So I got 76ers. I got Bucks.
No, East is definitely got most of its shit together. It's more of a question of the bottom 4.
And then this is where I think that they were asleep. I don't know why the Raptors are still the 4 seed, except for the fact that they won it last year. They don't have Kawhi. That team, in my opinion, is headed for the dumpster fire. I got the Heat at 4. I got the Pacers at 5. I got the Magic at 6. Oh no, hold on. I got Kyrie and the Nets at
5.
Oh no, I got them at 4. I forgot that Kyrie's on the Nets for a second. Nets, Heat, Pacers.
Heat Pacers.
Yes. That's how many teams. That's 4, 5, 6. So I need 2 more teams. Oh god, it just got really bad. I guess the Magic will be in there. I don't know how the Magic are above the Pacers unless Victor Oladipo's not playing, and also the Magic above Kyrie and the Nets. What the hell is this blasphemy? Who's gonna be the last team? Because here's the thing: out east, you're gonna have one team that kind of sneaks in that really isn't. Actually,
Ready.
I think I'm gonna put Raptors, then Magic at the 8 seed, and then my 9 seed I'll put the Pistons. Actually, nah. I want Blake Griffin to make the playoffs. Pistons are the 9 seed. I mean the 8 seed, and the Magic can be the 9 seed.
All right. So, I mean, the top 3 are obvious in my opinion. Sixers, Bucks, Celtics. That's easy. I'm going Nets not because of anything particular than the fact that I like the Nets and I want to see them do well.
Okay.
I'm going Pacers. I'm going Heat. And then I'm going... I'm on my 7th seed.
I just think that,
about like
I just think that the Heat and the Pacers being ranked below the Raptors, like the Heat with Jimmy Butler and the Pacers with Victor Oladipo and that whole squad that's going on, like I think that's a little disrespectful, honestly, to those 2 guys. They've been lighting the league up the past few years, and who the hell do the Magic even have that they're being ranked above these guys? Like, what is this?
I'm gonna say Magic, and I'm gonna say for 8th, I'm gonna say Raptors, and 9th Pistons. I think the Pistons have a chance, but I think those 2 can be interchangeable. I mean, the fact is the 8th seed is gonna be the most interesting thing, and whoever slips in is gonna be the most interesting thing for this. Oh, you're also on 538. 538 goes in purely by raw numbers and lots of stat data, so it doesn't really translate. But I don't know. I mean, I'm confident in my top 6. I'm not confident in in the bottom 3 there. I'm not.
I just think that it's massively disrespectful that they have Kyrie with a losing record behind the
No, yeah,
Magic.
that's
That's
not happening.
disrespectful.
That's not happening.
I'm not
And
saying
then
that
I mean
Kyrie's a
that,
god, but at the same time, if
but he's still very good.
yeah,
And I'm
like
not sure about the Raptors either. The Raptors. I don't understand. Like I Raptors without Kawhi plus all the injuries of the versus the injured Warriors, they don't win that series. You replace
honestly,
Kawhi with anyone's with like a slightly worse version of him, it's not happening.
I think pretty much. I think there were probably 2 players in the league that could have done that, and their names are LeBron James and Kawhi Leonard. I really don't think. I mean, Giannis doesn't have the shooting to do it, so it becomes kind of easy to game plan for him. And if you give Steve Kerr somebody that he can game plan against specifically to just remove from the game, that's usually what's going to happen.
That's how the Bucks were beaten. They took Giannis out of the equation.
So I mean, I just feel like uh, I don't like this. This bothers me. The Magic being this high up is blasphemy, and I think the Raptors, honestly, is also rude. So, um, yeah, that's kind of my take on it. I just wanted to bring this up because when I saw that the Nuggets were ranked above the Lakers, Clippers, and the Jazz, I damn near had a heart attack. And also the Clippers at the 6th seed, like, hello,
No, yeah, I think that's crazy.
the 6th seed,
I
bro.
think that's absolutely
God, like
nuts.
they basically just said, yeah, Kawhi Leonard and Paul George are actually gonna hate each other and they're gonna kill each other on the court every day. Like, what? But yet they have a 10%. I don't understand this. They have a better chance of making the finals from the 6th seed than the Nuggets do from the 2 seed. So at least they were paying attention for that, I guess.
Well, I think we'd be going on long enough.
Yeah, we're about an hour and a half, so we were actually kind of right
Oh,
on
okay.
par.
Yeah, we actually are. I thought we'd been talking longer. Oh, we started this call a lot earlier.
Yeah, we did. So,
So,
any wrapping up thoughts? You tend to be the one that comes out has the great outtakes.
great outtakes.
Yeah, I
Oh,
almost.
his microphone came unplugged.
Oh shit! Sorry. I'm currently.
Because I can't be. I've been sitting for a while, and now I kind of just want to stand. Let's see. I almost said, you know what? Never mind. I take back saying fuck the Red Sox. I stand by it. And let's see what. Let Brett bang.
Let Brett bang.
Let Brett bang. I'm trying to think of like what interesting thing I could possibly say. Yeah, I got nothing. Shit. Let me take a look at some.
Come on, you gotta have one fantastic outtake.
Gotta have one fantastic outtake.
I mean,
You and
you
I
started-
both
you
know
started off strong,
exactly what
though.
outtake we were thinking about.
What's
I
up?
can't up. We're both thinking about something else, you know. Some other outtake from yesterday.
Oh God.
Jesus Christ.
You're having some issues there, Mr. Baseball Guy. Come on now. You're getting ready to turn the corner. Make a bold prediction about somebody. Somebody that's in a good position
Make a
now that's gonna fall out.
bold prediction. Oh God. Let's see. Bold prediction. I think that Minnesota. I don't want to say because I really don't want Cleveland to win the Central. But I'm gonna say that Minnesota's gonna blow their division lead completely because they've blown it from 11-2. I think Cleveland comes back all the way to upset Minnesota and take back their division.
All right,
Yeah.
that'd be interesting.
Yeah. That's about as interesting of a take I can make right now because I'm not really sure. I was thinking, God, I feel dirty. I feel like I don't have anything. I feel wrong.
I am offended, honestly. You started
You're
out with fuck the
offended.
Red Sox, and then you had a You were on fire. You had a great few runs.
What else did I say besides fuck the Red Sox?
I always feel like we see something that's just like polarizing right before the
I
end.
think I went on like a rant last time, but like I don't think. I mean, oh yeah, I mean, so here, fair weather fans, New York Mets, hello. Your stadium's been empty for the entire season, and you've been cutting prices on your tickets based on how many strikeouts you get, and you've cut tickets by 93% when Marcus Stroman was acquired, and you cut them by like 87% because you struck out a bunch of guys on a road trip, and you still couldn't fill your shit stadium. And then all of a sudden, you could beat a bunch of bad teams, and all the Mets fans like, we've been here all along, ignoring the fact Mets Twitter was full of a bunch of Mets burning Mets jerseys for the entire season up until these past 2 weeks. So I'm sorry, Mets fans, but I'm sure there are loyal ones amongst you. I'm not going to say there aren't, but you know, people want to call Yankees fans fake. Go look at Citi Field when it was packed a couple weeks ago. That's a bunch of fucking fair weather fans. Thank you very much.
All right. With that being
Is
said,
that better?
there
That
you
better?
go. That's a lot better. There you go. All right. With that being said, this was blow up the team, and we will see you next week.
Nigga on my face, Lil CC, let it slap with the bass. I used to save hoes with a mask in a cave. Now I'm like, nah, love, I'm good, go away. Ain't about to die with no money I done gave you. I was on top when that shit meant a lot.